welcome to another episode of the Spotlight Sessions. My name's Ilan Fisher. I head up our nonprofit partnerships here at accessiBe, and I'm really excited to be having a conversation with Isaac Harvey, who is the president of Wheels and Wheelchairs, and also hailing from Ilford, UK. How's it going, Isaac?
Yeah, all good. Thanks for having me today.
It's a pleasure. I've been really excited to interview you for a while. We were talking offline before, and I'm a big fan of your work. You're really like developing in the creative space. So Isaac, tell us a little bit about yourself for people who know a little bit less about you than I do.
Yeah, so my name's Isaac, and I was born with a disability called limb pelvic hypoplasia, which means I have no arms and short legs. I also have scoliosis in my spine, which is the curvature of it. And yeah, I've kind of just got on with life even with my disability and tried to make the most of it. So as mentioned, I'm the president of Wheels and Wheelchairs, which is roller skaters pushing wheelchair users. We do that around London twice a week, and we've been growing slowly since I've become president, where we have more wheelchair users taking part, and even the roller skaters have been growing and wanting to push our users, which is good, and never joining the roller skating community is so inclusive, because the way I see it is we all got wheels under our feet. So if the road's not great, we all suffer. And if it's smooth, then we all do it together, and it's great fun. And then on top of that, I'm a disability advocate, showing what you can do with a disability, and I'm a video editor.
Awesome. I like that like twist on things, because I never actually thought of it that people become advocates for better paving or better roading by also being roller skaters. So it's bringing more awareness to the fact of what it's like to, I guess, really transport using wheels. And you mentioned a little bit about it, but how did you get into blogging and advocacy?
So, kind of just the nature of my life, really. I guess the biggest achievement was back in 2012 when I carried the Olympic torch, and many people witnessed what I was doing, and I saw loads of people cheering, and seeing someone with a disability being able to achieve something that high was, I guess, the first start of my journey, and the first time I really had a YouTube video with my face on it. And I thought, okay, I can continue this and just share what I'm doing in life. And then it just kind of spiraled from there.
And can you talk me a little bit about your creative process in terms of like video editing and the tech that you've been using, and also kind of being a user with a disability?
I've always had a creative mind, and I've always had some wacky ideas that I've always wanted to put out into the world. So it's kind of like first with the idea. Well, actually, no, it works both ways. So sometimes it's an idea that I might think of, and then it's planning it out and then making it. Or sometimes, for example, I used to do vlogging on YouTube. So I'll just film the adventure that I was doing. I'd get creative in the filming process, but I think it all boils down to the editing as well. Being able to just mix, match, add music here, put text here, zoom in on my face, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's a creative process both ways.
Nice. And now you're getting also more vocal on LinkedIn. How do you find your process on LinkedIn compared to, let's say, blogging or let's say YouTube on the earlier days?
I feel one thing that I've learned along my journey is about mental health and why it's so important. So, I've done skydiving, skiing and all of that, and I was known as Isaac, the guy who did the skydive, and people would get really inspired by what I was doing. And I kind of had to keep that persona, but behind the scenes, I wasn't really right with my mindset. So I kind of kept this persona on like Instagram and Facebook and even YouTube, where I would just cut out the bad bits, because I didn't want people to, my mind that people didn't want to see the bad bits of life. So I just showed the good parts. It was not good for me, neither was it good for the audience, because it's just like a fake reality. So I started to be a bit more honest on Instagram, which people did appreciate. Surprise, surprise. People do like honesty, which then also helped me. And then going on to LinkedIn now, loads of people for years were saying, you need to go onto LinkedIn, you need to go onto LinkedIn. And I always said, why do I need another social media platform? But ever since joining March last year, and being able to share my stories, people really, really do appreciate compared to the other platforms. And I've been getting a lot of opportunities through that. So it's basically just me sharing stories. And yeah, it's just, you can't really find it difficult to share own personal stories. So I just kind of share a story, how it happened, and people like reading it and commenting and engaging in the post.
And I really like what you said, that note that you had about like mental health, because I also sometimes feel like even LinkedIn now is getting to that point, because you're seeing your
Mm.
mates are getting promoted, or this person's got that sort of accolade or whatever. So I think we're probably soon going to get at a phase where people will need to also be more real on LinkedIn as well, because it is kind of like also like that Instagram effect. But yeah, definitely. I myself try to really limit the amount of time I spend, let's say, on TikTok or Instagram, or even just scrolling on YouTube,
Mm.
because it overall it doesn't really have a positive effect. But the positive effect of, let's say, LinkedIn, for example, is the networking. I think us having these conversations with,
Oh,
I'm
yes.
in Tel Aviv, you're in London, like these are only the sort of connections that can happen through through LinkedIn and otherwise. So I want to go back a little bit to kind of you gain more opportunities through LinkedIn. How did you get involved with the Disability Power 100?
Well, actually, it's a bit of a funny story. So, for those who don't know, I became the Power 100, one of the top influential disabled people in the UK. It was funny because I just got an email saying you've been nominated, and I thought, oh, okay, because you know when you get an email like that, it's like, is it real or not? But I did, did do a search, and it was from a real email. So that happened, and I announced it. I was saying, oh, this is a win in itself. And then a couple of months later, I was watching the live stream of them announcing the winners, and yeah, I found out that I was in the sports category for the things that I did in wheels and wheelchairs. But I still don't know who nominated me, so I don't know who that was. But it's one of those things where all that I do in life, I don't really do it for awards, and I find it kind of strange when I do get awards for things that you should do because it's the right thing to do. But I think at the end of the day, it's recognition for what me and my team are doing. And I think that's the most important thing when you get these awards, it's recognition for the good work.
Yeah, I love that. And also, the awards really puts your name more out there, and again creates those additional
Mm.
connections. And when it comes to wheels and wheelchairs, we kind of touched about it before, but how big is your team? Like, what does the organization look like? What are some of your kind of big missions, big goals over the coming year? Let's say.
So we have a committee of about 10 of us where we make decisions about, for example, going trips and outings, so everyone's prepared for that. And then on top of that, we have, so the whole way we do it is, so the skaters come out voluntary to push, the wheelchair users are, we don't ask them to pay anything to join us. So it's all done voluntary, and we've been growing through lockdown actually, and some in 2019 where we have extra skaters, wheelchair users have seen us on social media, parents have said, oh, my kids would love this. So we say, yeah, you're more than welcome to join, and we bring them a wheelchair, and they absolutely love it. And since lockdown, we've gained three permanent wheelchair users who come out on a weekly basis, which is
Wow.
nice.
Not absolutely phenomenal work. And yeah, anything
Yes.
anything that we can do as accessiBe or myself. I know I'm going to be in the UK next month, so hopefully I'll
Yes.
come get my skates on. I'm a little bit rusty, but as I was saying, I did like, I don't know, 3 weeks of ice skating lessons when I was younger, so
Yeah.
all pretty transferable
Yes.
skills.
Yeah. Look forward to
And
it.
Isaac, one of the questions which I really love to ask everybody who comes onto the podcast is, what does accessibility mean to them? Because it's something that's a really broad question, and obviously everybody's going to have a different answer, because
Mm.
accessibility touches them differently. So I'd love to hear your perspective and take on that.
It's accessibility. Yeah, you're right. It's kind of a broad term, but for me, I think accessibility comes with the individual themselves and being open to others and making things more accessible so people are able to, for example, do a job that they want to do or be able to access a building. I think it comes with perception and people having a more open mind to it.
And I'd love to drill down just on what you mean by perception and having more of an open mind to it. How can you add to that a little bit?
Yeah, so I mean, for example, when you talk about accessibility to some people, they just think it's putting a ramp outside the building, but it's more than the ramp. It's making sure that the ramp's the right size, the right width for the wheelchair, the people having training to put the ramp down properly, making sure that the doors are wide enough for when you do put the ramp down, because you might have a good ramp, but the door might not be good for the wheelchair. And then once you enter the building, is it wheelchair accessible, wheelchair friendly? Can I get to the lift to the 6th floor? You know, it's more than just having a ramp outside. And yeah, some people just narrow down accessibility as this one thing when it's a lot more than one thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's thinking about kind of the journey rather than just saying you have to have a ramp.
Yeah.
And therefore, once you have the ramp, you're done. It's like thinking, okay, how can I actually transport through the space? Is it actually something that's feasible?
And actually, with accessibility, there is no end point to the journey. There's always going to be learning. You're always going to learn, and you're always going to have to keep on developing. There's no end goal when it comes to accessibility.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And in terms of businesses in the UK, in London, what are some of the things that they're doing really well in accessibility, and what are some of the things that they can improve on?
So one real big shout out I have to say is the great work that TfL do, Transport for London, and how they're making stations more accessible. You know, it's not perfect, and I know they have a lot of plans to make stations more accessible, but you know, I can go from one station, speak to the workers on the gates, say for example, I'm going to Green Park today. They would help me onto the train, call ahead to the next station where I met at the platform, and then they help me in the lifts and go around. And I think that's really good for people to have independence and not have to worry about no one meeting me or not being able to go out. Like I said, it's not perfect, and sometimes people don't meet me, but compare that to some other countries, we're doing very well. And I find it confusing when people do complain about how London is, when actually we should be grateful that 20 years ago there were steps onto the bus, so we weren't even able to get on the bus. So we've come a long way, but we have a long way to go.
And in terms of a long way to go, what are some of the things that the City of London can be doing better?
I feel that, as we mentioned earlier about access to buildings, I've seen some new buildings that don't even have the right access to get in. So I think that's something that needs to be done. And I also feel that these businesses need to start reaching out to us, because we're here to help you. We're not, because the problem is they assume what needs to be done. They do it, it's wrong, then they have to redo it, which means a lot of money wasted when they could have just asked us in the first place. And it would save all people complaining and fighting. You know, just come and reach out to us. We're here to speak to you.
I love that, and I think that's really when we're talking about the accessibility journey. It isn't one-sided. It's not one-sided at all. The way everyone's gonna progress is by working in tandem. And Isaac, really, the last question I want to ask is, what is an achievement that you're most proud of, be it personally, professionally?
Getting to be on this interview.
I knew you were gonna say that. Everyone says that.
To be honest, I don't have one major achievement, but on a serious note, getting to speak to new people and being able to be on a different platform to share my journey and hopefully inspire others is a huge achievement in my eyes, because as we mentioned, we're here to help each other, and I'm here to share my experiences to hopefully make it the better for everyone, really. So thank you, actually.
I love that, Isaac. Isaac, thank you again for being on the podcast. It's been amazing, and I'm really excited to see where our conversations develop next, and I'll see you in London next month.